Jesse Allen here, and being joined now by my good friend Chad Hansen. He's the president of Corporate Farmer in Mason City, Iowa. They are a farm tax accounting firm. And Chad, it's good to see you and talk to you. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Great to hear from you. It looks like you're doing well, and always just fun to touch base and catch up again.
Yeah, Chad, it's always great to talk with you. And I know you got a wealth of knowledge, you and the team there at Corporate Farmer, when it comes to farm tax and accounting. And, with the change in administration now, moving to the Biden administration, we're starting to see news stories and rumors and hearing things about changes that could come to tax policy that specifically affects agriculture. And I know there's a lot of things out there that worry farmers, I think, right now. What is some of the latest you're hearing when it comes to possible new tax changes we could have come down the line?
Yeah, I think the big thing is the worry comes from how friendly I guess the past administration was when it came to businesses and especially agriculture. You had government payments. You had the CFAP 1 and 2, MFP, ARC, PLC, WHIP Plus, all this stuff, that went to help with the farmers, and even through the kind of, you know, issues with China that were kind of the beginning of that administration. They continued to support agriculture financially through that rocky times, and then with the tax policies there, you had things like the 199A deduction, that 20% deduction in revenue for businesses, and they increased Section 179 on equipment and reduced tax rates, bonus depreciation, brought back, carryover losses the last couple years, that in times when farming got pretty tough. And then just reduced restrictions and regulations on business. So, talk about friendly. It doesn't get much friendlier than that. So, I think the concerns come from the fact of, how much is the new administration going to be concerned about, businesses and especially agriculture. And I think the issues that you're talking about really are things like peeling back some of that tax policy, or allowing some of it to sunset, whether that's, the Section 179 that's up to $1 million, that has just continued to grow over the last several years, and capital gains. I think that's a big topic that you're probably seeing in the news, especially with farmers and farmland. Capital gains can get to be significant on, the appreciation that we've seen in land prices. And so, if we saw that go from 15% right now on capital gains to say 28%, I mean, you're almost looking at a doubling in the tax liability, for those that rely heavily on that for maybe some, retirement. And then, I talked about the regulations on businesses and stuff, green policy, right? I mean, that's kind of one of the foundations of the new administration, and how does that affect livestock producers and farmers in different ways, with pollution and things like that. I think that we heard, with the Obama administration, concerns about those restrictions and the increased costs that it passes on to the farmer. And unfortunately, the farmer, being an end consumer, they're just not in a position to pass those costs on, to the next level. And so they eat that, and it basically comes out of their bottom line.
Well, and there's a lot of things there to kind of to pick apart, Chad. And we know this much: farmers, they hold a lot of their wealth and assets, whether it be
Mhm.
equipment or livestock or buildings or farm or land or whatnot. So, it's not necessarily as easy to just write a big tax check if things change, because I mean, you know, that money's tied up in what they use every day. So it makes potential changes. I would say there's definitely some worry out there in farm country. Is that what you're hearing from clients right now?
Yeah, and you're hitting on, I think, the biggest issue that I left for you, and that's estate taxes. I think that is where the biggest concern is on estate taxes, because this administration has talked about significant changes there. Will they continue with a step up in basis? So, step up in basis is huge when it comes to equipment and land. as that's passed on to the next generation, and maybe non-farming heirs decide that they are going to go ahead and liquidate those farms, and that's good to kind of have some turnover and get that into new hands. So good for the opportunity for those people that aren't involved in the farm to pass that on to the kids that stick around and are continuing that operation. I talked a little bit about the capital gains situation, for individuals while they're alive, but there's also some rumors that maybe they would institute a capital gains tax at death. So instead of waiting until the time that maybe you pass that on and it was sold down the road, that capital gains tax might be assessed at your death, and so that would force kids into liquidating the farm because of the fact that they wouldn't have the cash. So many of these farms, the value is all tied up in assets and not in cash, and so that's not available. Now there are some ideas out there that maybe there would be a lien against the property that wouldn't be assessed against that, and the cash wouldn't have to be paid until those assets were sold. But there's likely going to be some kind of interest charged and some additional fees associated with something like that. And then, the big thing, is the 1031 exchange. That's huge for being able to roll the value in a piece of property into another one without having to pay the taxes. And I think there's a lot of fear that goes away with this new administration. And so, just a lot of those things all wrapped into one. And obviously it's the unknown. Probably not all of this is going to happen, but any one of these things could have a huge impact. And, in the Midwest, what do we brag about? What are we happy to kind of support is the Century Farms, right? And so, there's fears that this could break up some of those Century Farms just because of the fact that they, wouldn't be able to handle the tax burden.
Well, Chad, we're talking a lot of things that it sounds like could negatively impact agriculture if they go through with the new administration. Are you hearing any rumors of things that could be supportive to agriculture moving forward as far as tax policy is concerned? And again, a lot of this, as we're talking, it's kind of a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what's going to happen moving forward.
The good thing is there's a lot of stuff that was made permanent by the prior administration. So, it's going to take some support to make changes. We know, here in the Midwest that we do have good representation, right? And, in Iowa, Grassley has been, one of the biggest, supporters of agriculture for a long, long time. And so they're going to go to bat for our farmers, and they're going to make sure that some of these things that I'm talking about, that if they were to get included in some tax policy, that there's going to be some provisions maybe to protect farms of a certain size. And, when it comes to things like this step up in basis and that capital gains tax, at death there, obviously they'll work to make sure that is, something that our rural farmers are able to, have some kind of exception probably in there, so that they don't get in a position where they have to sell off everything just to pay the tax bill.
Very, very true. Well, Chad, obviously, again, we're talking about potential changes to tax policy, but of course, it is tax season looking back at 2020, and a lot of farmers, they got to be getting those returns ready, and we hope that they have everything at least together and have things sorted out. What are maybe some things you'd want to remind producers of as they're getting those 2020 tax returns prepared and ready to go right now?
Yeah, so much of it is just getting organized, right? There's been so many changes that it's probably a good idea to start a little bit sooner rather than wait till the last second here. Maybe with some different forms. We've had several rounds at this point of stimulus. Our stimulus checks are something that is going to be asked on the return, how much we got, so that can be reconciled to see, whether you're entitled to any more. I think so many times people forget about these changes and they don't realize that they may need a little bit more when it comes to equipment trade, information about the item that they traded in, value, when did they purchase that. That's something that, has changed over the last couple of years. There's always additional questions that are asked, like a big one that was just instituted and has become a compliance issue is this, the Bitcoin, question. And I think, I laugh because most of our farmers are like, what's Bitcoin? So it's a pretty easy, no, I don't have Bitcoin. But, for others, I mean, that's something they dabbled in a little bit, and it's a new thing that is ever changing. And like I said, so much of this is it just feels like it changes on a weekly, monthly basis. And, probably the biggest thing right now for me is, I don't know if you've heard of this PPP. Jesse, you ever heard of that? I'm sure some listeners have heard of PPP at this point in time. It's been around for almost a year now. And, we kind of had the second round of that whole deal. And so I would say 3/4 of my phone calls right now and conversations with clients involve PPP. How does it work? What do I need? I need some help filling out this application. How much is it going to amount to in my situation? Man, that has consumed a lot of time for us here in the office.
I can imagine. Well, and for folks out there who are listening to us chat, I know you and your team there at Corporate Farmer work with farmers across the entire U.S. and help them to kind of make sense of their tax position and better their operation and make sure everything is organized and concise. And if folks are wanting a little help with that, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, easy. Just give us a call, 800-472-6931, or you can check us out online at corporatefarmer.com.
Yeah, it's really easy. I still remember that toll-free number, by the way.
Well, that's good. Maybe it worked. Yeah. We'll have to be touching base there, Jesse.
Chad Hansen, president of Corporate Farmer in Mason City, Iowa. I appreciate you joining me today and talking more about potential tax policy changes and tax policy things to remember for this year. I really appreciate it. We'll have to talk again soon.
Yeah, that sounds great. Always look forward to talking to you.